Hello everyone, welcome to Toor Academy. So today I am going to explain muscular tissues and nervous tissues. In my previous sessions, already I have explained about epithelial tissues, uh, connective tissues, adipose tissues, as well as plant tissues. So वो मैं पहले अपने सेशन में एक्सप्लेन कर चुकी हूँ. लास्ट के ये दो टॉपिक रह गए थे. So these are the last topics of this chapter, that is tissues, class 9th biology. So muscular tissue and nervous tissues today I am going to explain. Or first of all, characteristics of muscular tissues. So let's start. What are the characteristics of muscular tissues? MT for muscular tissue. Number one, muscular tissues, wherever they are present, they are able to contract and relax. Contraction, relaxation. This is a unique and a very characteristic feature of these muscular tissues. They can contract, they can relax. And this contraction and relaxation take place because of a special type of protein present in their cells that is known as contractile protein. Protein is an organic substance. So organic substance always they give flexibility wherever they are present. So contractile proteins are present in muscular tissues. That is why they are so flexible. They can be contracted, they can be relaxed, and contraction or relaxation say they are responsible for all type of movement in the body, whether they are internal organs as well as external organs. So उनका जो भी movement होता है that is done by these muscular tissues. So contraction, relaxation due to the presence of contractile proteins in them. Number two, they are elongated and large in size. Elongated, large in size, and responsible for movement of the body. And these muscular tissues, also known as muscle fibers, because they are always elongated, लंबाई lengthwise होते हैं. So that is why sometimes they are also known as muscle fibers. They are in the form of fibers, right? And number two, they are also known as skeletal muscles. इनको कई बार हम skeletal muscles भी बोलते हैं. Why do we call them skeletal muscles? Because they are connected with our bones. हमारी bones के साथ they are connected. That is why they sometimes we call them skeletal muscles, because they are elongated and fiber-like structures. That is why sometimes they are also known as muscle fibers. So these are the characteristic, special characteristic features of muscular tissue. And muscular tissues further can be classified into three types. Number one, striated muscular tissues. Number two, unstriated muscular tissue. Number three, cardiac muscles. So these are the main three types of muscular tissues. So one by one, we will have special characteristics, features of these three types of muscular tissue and their functions also. I have drawn the diagrams also. So first of all, what are striated tissues? जैसा कि इनके नाम से ही पता लगता है, as the name suggests, striated. Striated means striped. They are also known as striped muscles because they have dark and light bands on the tissues, on the cells. Dark and light stripes or bands are present on the surface of these tissues. यहाँ पे मैंने diagram draw किया है. So you can see इसमें horizontally dark and light stripes are there. So this is the reason these tissues are known as either striated muscles or striped muscles. So dark and light stripes are there. Number two, very important point, they are voluntary muscles. In my previous sessions, जब मैंने ये chapter start किया था, तो मैंने बताया था आपको कि हमारे बॉडी में जितने भी टाइप के मूवमेंट्स होते हैं, यू कैन क्लासीफाई देम इनटू टू कैटेगरीज. नंबर वन, वॉलंटरी मसल्स, और नंबर टू, यह दिस इज अनस्ट्रैटेड मसल में मैंने लिखा इनवॉलंटरी मसल. सो वी आर हैविंग टू टाइप्स ऑफ मूवमेंट इन द बॉडी. एक तो वॉलंटरी मूवमेंट और एक इनवॉलंटरी मूवमेंट. वॉलंटरी मूवमेंट्स आर दोज मूवमेंट्स विच आर अकॉर्डिंग टू आवर विश. हम चाहेंगे तो वो मूवमेंट होगा. इफ यू डोंट वांट, देन दैट मूवमेंट विल नॉट टेक प्लेस. लाइक इफ आई क्लोज दिस बाय हैंड, बंद करती हूँ जब मैं इसको, तो मेरे मसल्स जो इसमें हेल्प करते हैं, दीज आर वॉलंटरी मसल्स. वॉलंटरी मसल्स मीन्स वॉलंटरीली दे वर्क ऑन देयर ओन, मतलब सॉरी, दे वर्क अकॉर्डिंग टू आवर विश. हमारे विश के अकॉर्डिंग वो काम करते हैं. लाइक इफ आई मूव, सो मेरे लेग्स के, लिम्स के जो मसल्स हैं, दे विल वर्क. इफ आई डोंट वांट टू वॉक, देन दे विल नॉट वर्क. अगर मैं इफ आई वांट टू स्पीक, तो मेरे बकल कैविटी के जो मसल्स हैं, दे विल वर्क. अदरवाइज इफ आई डोंट वांट टू स्पीक, देन दे विल नॉट वर्क. सो वॉलंटरी movement in our body are those movements which are according to our wish. If we wish to do those movements, वो work करेंगे muscles. If we don't want to do that movement, then they will not work. So these type of movements take place in our body, especially in our external organs. हमारे limbs हैं, legs हैं, facial muscles हैं, या हमारे hands के muscles हैं, हमारी speech है. All these are having voluntary movements according to our wish. So these are voluntary movements. On the other hand, we have involuntary movements also in the body. Involuntary movements normally takes place in our internal organs, like heart के muscles है, like हमारे kidney muscles, lungs के muscles है, stomach, alimentary canal के muscles हैं. They work on their own. They don't want our permission to work. Whether we are sleeping or not sleeping, they keep on working. वो अपने according they work on their own. अपने according काम करते रहते हैं, whether we want to work them or no. So those movements in our body, normally these movements take place in our internal organs like heart, kidney, lungs, alimentary canal. So those movements in the body are known as involuntary movements. और involuntary movements करने के लिए we have special muscles, they are known as involuntary muscles. और voluntary movement करने के लिए भी we have special muscles known as voluntary muscles. So now come to the point. Striated muscles, they are responsible for voluntary movement. So they are known as voluntary muscles also. Muscles है ये कौन से? Voluntary muscles है. मतलब they work according to our wish. And number two, because they are elongated, they are unbranched, lengthwise होते हैं, so fiber form में होते हैं, and cylindrical, cylinder के shape के ये होते हैं. I have drawn the structure here. So they are cylindrical, long, elongated, having dark and light stripes on them. Cells है, so they have nuclei also here and there. They have nuclei, different nuclei हैं यहाँ पे. And इनमें जो nucleus होता है, a large number of nuclei are present. So we can say they are multinucleated. In one cell, more than one nucleus is there. So they are multinucleated. And these tissues के जो cells हैं, they are covered by a membrane. That membrane is known as sacrolemma. That membrane which covers the tissues, ये last वाली जो membrane इसमें है, outer membrane, मैंने आपको यहाँ पे label भी करा हुआ है, sacrolemma. And these sacrolemma में dot मैंने structures बताए हैं. This is known as sacroplasm. मतलब outer lining, outer wall, outer membrane is known as sacrolemma. And membrane के नीचे there is liquid that is known as sacroplasm. जैसे cytoplasm होता है, same thing is there, sacroplasm. It is known as sacroplasm. These are the nuclei, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nuclei है, and dark and light bands are also there and they are not branched. इनकी कोई branches नहीं है. क्यों ये वाला point है? Because next जो cardiac muscles हैं, they are all almost of the same type, but they are branched. They have branch structures. So multinucleated, covered by sacrolemma, and rapid contraction and relaxation. They are able to do contraction and relaxation rapidly. And they, लेकिन इतना rapidly ये contraction and relaxation करते हैं कि they get tired and need rest. Like if you do lot of work, आप walk ज़्यादा करते हैं तो आप you feel tired. Why you feel tired? Because your striated muscles, they get tired because of the rapidly contraction and relaxation. They get tired and they need rest. So हमारी body को भी उस time body also need rest. So these are the characteristic features of striated muscular tissue, also known as striped muscular tissues. Number 1, dark and light stripes are present on them. Number 2, they are voluntary muscles. Number 3, they are long and elongated, unbranched, they don't have any branch, cylindrical, cylinder के shape के हैं, and multinucleated, they have more than one nuclei in them, and covered by sacrolemma, which is a membrane which covers them. And they are having an ability to contract and relax rapidly. Itna rapidly they contract and relax, so after some time they get tired and they need rest. These are the characteristic features of striated muscles. This is the diagram. आप ये diagram, whenever it is required, you can draw this diagram also, a label diagram, and it depends upon the question. Number 2, second type of muscular tissue is unstriated muscles. Because they are unstriated, they don't have stripes on them. That is why sometimes they are also known as smooth muscles. So smooth muscles, unstriated muscles, one and the same thing, right? Now what are the characteristic features of unstriated or smooth muscles? Number 1, they do all the involuntary functions in our body. हमारे body में जितने भी involuntary functions हैं. Now what are involuntary functions? Those functions which take place on their own. They don't need our permission to do that work. So they keep on working whether we are sleeping or not sleeping. They keep on working. हमारी permission की उनको ज़रूरत नहीं होती है. कि ये ऐसा नहीं होता है कि like heart में हमारे these unstriated muscles हैं, heart और हमारे kidney में और जहाँ कहीं भी हमारे unstriated muscles हैं. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि हम चाहेंगे तो ये वर्क करेंगे और नहीं चाहेंगे तो they will not work. It's not like that. They keep on working. So they are involuntary. They have involuntary functions. And इसके ये another characteristic feature is कि they are spindle shaped. Unstriated तो है ही, they don't have any light and dark bands on them, no stripes on them. That is why they are known as smooth muscles. Number 2, they are uninucleated. Uninucleated means, you can see, this is the diagram of unstriated or smooth muscles. So, number 1, they are spindle shaped and uninucleated. Uni means one. Each cell has only one single cell. So, uninucleated, smooth, no stripes on them. Longitudinal stripes हैं इनमें, but not the horizontal, जैसे previous striated muscles में हमने देखा था light and dark bands हैं, stripes हैं. They don't have those stripes and bands. So they are बिल्कुल elongated तो हैं, but they are spindle shaped. They have a special shape. You can differentiate between the shapes of these two types of muscles. Striated muscles, they are cylindrical. But smooth muscles, they are not cylindrical. They are pointed from both ends like spindle. Spindle shaped है, uninucleated है, and This is the nucleus, only one nucleus in one cell. इसमें भी same thing is there कि outer, they are also covered by an outer membrane. That membrane is known as sacrolemma, and sacrolemma के below sacrolemma there is a liquid that is known as sacroplasm. So sacrolemma is the membrane which covers them, and sacroplasm is the like a cytoplasm filled in them. So this is smooth muscles and they are involuntary. So जितने भी हमारे बॉडी के internal organs है, like kidney है, our alimentary canal also, different parts of our alimentary canal, lungs है, kidneys है, they are all having these unstriated muscles. So what are the functions of these unstriated muscles? All the involuntary function of our internal body organs are done by these smooth muscles. और जितने भी हमारे internal organs हैं, they keep on working day and night. So because they are made up of unstriated or smooth muscles. Number 2, peristaltic movement in the intestine. 10th क्लास में जाके आप एक मूवमेंट पढ़ोगे इंटेस्टाइन में. इन द होल इंटेस्टाइन देयर इज अ स्पेशल kind of movement that is known as peristaltic movement. And peristaltic movement is the rhythmic movement of inner walls of your intestine and your esophagus also, that is food pipe. उसमें भी जो inner walls है rhythmically, मतलब alternately they contract, they expand. फिर नीचे वाले contract, ऊपर वाले expand. Rhythmically they contract and relax slowly and steadily. Because of this rhythmic movement of the inner walls of your small intestine, the food automatically it goes in the right direction, that is in the downward direction. Esophagus से like food pipe से stomach में आता है, stomach से small intestine में, then large intestine में, like this. So that movement of the inner wall of your small intestine, of your whole alimentary canal, in fact, is known as peristaltic movement. So your unstriated muscles are also present in the inner walls of your alimentary canal and they do peristaltic movement. वहाँ पे वो क्या करते हैं? Peristaltic movement करते हैं, जिससे food, all the food particles, they will come down and in a right direction. Number 3, third type of your muscular tissues are cardiac tissues. As the name suggests, cardiac tissues are present in your heart. Cardiac word is related with your heart. तो heart के जो muscles हैं, they are cardiac muscles. Now because they are present in the heart, so they are also having some special characteristic features. There is a question in your NCERT, write 3 characteristic special features of cardiac muscles. तो heart के muscles हैं, they must be having some characteristic features. Number 1, they behave both like smooth muscles and striated muscles. Smooth muscles और striated muscles की in between category है ये. They sometimes behave like smooth muscles, sometimes they are striated. मतलब कि इनका जो structure है, इनका जो shape है, that is it resembles with striated muscles as well as smooth muscles. This is the diagram I have drawn here. ये आपके striated muscle से भी little bit they are resembling और आपके smooth muscle से भी ये resemble करते हैं. कैसे resemble करते हैं कि like striated muscles में they have dark and light bands. इसमें भी bands तो है but very light. These are the horizontally they have very light bands, and like striated muscles they are also cylindrical. ये भी cylindrical है, cylinder के shape के हैं, and striated muscles are also cylindrical. Their striated muscles are also elongated and cardiac muscles are also elongated and cylindrical. The difference is that striated muscles, they have dark bands but they have light bands, light stripes हैं. Striated muscles, they are not branched, they are unbranched, but cardiac muscles, they are branched. इनकी ये branches हैं यहाँ पे. Branched fibers, they are known as branched fibers. And इसमें भी the outer covering is made up of a membrane that is known as sacrolemma. And sacrolemma के नीचे जो डॉट डॉट यहाँ पे आपको ड्रॉ करके मैंने बताया है, that is sacroplasm. And these cardiac muscles, they are responsible for involuntary function, क्योंकि heart है. Involuntary function उसमें होता है. Heart does not require our permission to work. It works on its own because of the presence of these special cardiac muscles. They can contract, they can relax rhythmically, because rhythmically they contract and relax. So because of this movement of these muscles, heart can work as a pump. Heart has a pumping function. So pumping function is due to the rhythmic contraction and expansion, relaxation of these cardiac muscles. Our heart works as a pump, and because of pumping function of heart, the blood is distributed throughout the body. So that is required there, क्योंकि heart has to supply blood throughout the body. So that is why heart requires a pumping movement, and this is because of the special muscles known as cardiac muscles. Function आपको मैंने साथ ही बता दिया कि they can relax, and rhythmically causes pumping function of heart to supply blood throughout the body. So this is all about, ये आपको यहाँ पे मैंने बताया भी है. And sometimes there is a question, differentiate between striated muscles, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscles. So all these characteristic features, on the basis of characteristic features, you can classify them. You can differentiate between striated muscles, unstriated muscles, and cardiac muscles. Then, like striated muscles, they are voluntary, they have voluntary function. आपके जो cardiac muscles हैं, they have involuntary function. Voluntary, involuntary के base पे you can differentiate them. You can differentiate between them like uninucleated and multinucleated के base पे इनको differentiate कर सकते हो. आप इनके shape के base पे इनको differentiate कर सकते हो. Like they are cylindrical striated muscles, unbranched. They are also cylindrical but branched, and they are spindle shaped. So on the basis of these features, you can differentiate between striated muscles, unstriated, and cardiac muscles, right? So this is the this is all about muscular tissues. And in the end, this is the last topic of this chapter, that is nervous tissue. Nervous tissue में ज़्यादा इतना नहीं है, बस otherwise it is a very important tissue. बस इसका you should know the diagram. इसका अच्छे से आपको label diagram आना चाहिए, and few characteristics features इसके. Like on the basis of this diagram only, I will explain the meaning of this tissue. इसका जो meaning है वो मैं nerve cell का उसके diagram के base पे ही बता देती हूँ. It has a long, in fact longest cell in the body. जो nervous tissue हमारे बनाते हैं, they are made up of nerve cells. आपको शुरू में बताया था what are tissues. Tissues are the group of similar kind of cells performing a specific function. Those are known as tissues. So nervous tissue is made up of similar kind of cells called nerve cells. So nerve cells, they work collectively together, then they form nerve tissues. तो nerve tissue में nerve cells होते हैं. और इसका एक very long, in fact they are the longest cell in our body. सबसे long cell हैं, और they are interconnected. एक cell इसका जहाँ end होता है वहाँ से दूसरा cell start हो जाता है. End to end they are connected with each other, form a long chain starting from our sense organs. Sense organs से start होके they go up to the brain, taking the message, transmit करते हैं message को, and brain से जो मैसेज आता है, रिस्पॉन्स आती है, उसको भी ये ट्रांसमिट करते हैं टू द सेंस ऑर्गन्स. सो दिस गोज ऑन. और नर्व सेल से नर्व टिश्यू आपके बनते हैं, और इसका जो स्ट्रक्चर है आपको मैंने बताया, ब्रांच स्ट्रक्चर है इसका. At the top of the nerve cell there is a structure. सेल है तो सेल के सारे इसमें फीचर्स तो होंगे ही होंगे. सो दिस पार्ट इज नोन एज साइटोन. साइटोन it includes cytoplasm and a nucleus. This is a nucleus बीच में, एंड न्यूक्लियस के चारों तरफ साइटोप्लाज्म है. हर सेल में होता है साइटोप्लाज्म. एंड जो सेल मेम्ब्रेन है इसकी, सेल मेम्ब्रेन हैज सम आउटर ग्रोथ्स. ये आउटर ग्रोथ है इसकी सेल मेम्ब्रेन की. जहाँ से ये आउटर ग्रोथ स्टार्ट होती है, दैट पार्ट इज नोन एज डेंड्रॉन. एंड डेंड्रॉन फर्दर फॉर्म्स डिफरेंट ब्रांचेस. सो ब्रांचेस ऑफ दीज डेंड्रॉन्स आर नोन एज डेंड्राइट्स. सो डेंड्रॉन स्टार्ट होते हैं सेल मेम्ब्रेन से, एंड डेंड्रॉन्स लेटर ऑन form branch structure. So those branches of dendron are known as dendrites. These are the branches of dendron. And this is the cell body. Cytoplasm, nucleus, collectively known as cell body. इसको cell body कहते हैं, जिसमें nucleus आ गया, cytoplasm. You can say cyton also, cell body also. Cell body or cyton includes nucleus plus cytoplasm. One of the dendrite, it becomes elongated. ये जो जितने सारे इसमें branches हैं, dendrites हैं, उसमें से out of all these dendrites, one of the dendrite, it becomes elongated. वो elongated हो जाता है, और that elongated dendrite is known as axon. That is known as axon. क्या बोलते हैं उसे? Axon. So this is long dendrites known as axon, right? Now this axon has the ending. ये ending है. That ending is also having a branched structure that is known as terminal ending or nerve ending. This is also in some of the books it is written nerve ending, or it is also known as terminal ending. Terminal ending has some bulb-like structures, swollen structures, bulb-like structures. These bulb-like structures are known as synapse. bulb इनको बोलते हैं, या synapse ending इनको बोलते हैं. यहाँ मैं अभी बताती हूँ आपको कि synapse ending का क्या function है. And this is axon. Axon is filled with cytoplasm because it is a extension of your cell body also. तो उसके अंदर भी साइटोप्लाज्म है. डॉट डॉट करके मैंने ये साइटोप्लाज्म इसमें बताया हुआ है. एंड एक्सॉन बिकॉज इट इज अ वेरी डेलिकेट स्ट्रक्चर, सो इन अ नेचुरल वे इट इज कवर्ड बाय अ शीथ दैट इज ईदर known as medullary sheath, medullary, medullary sheath, or sometimes in some books it is written myelin sheath. कई बार इसे myelin sheath भी कहते हैं. myelin sheath, sometimes it is also known as myelin sheath. It is protective covering of axon. It protects the axon from any mechanical shock. इसके बाद this myelin sheath is not continuously present on the surface of the axon. It is having some narrow part also. axon पे ये ऊपर जो आपकी मेडुलरी शीथ है, यहाँ बीच बीच में it has some narrow part. These narrow parts are known as nodes of Ranvier. These narrow parts present in the medullary sheath are known as nodes of Ranvier. Nodes of Ranvier are known as. And in the end there is a terminal ending. और terminal ending के इसका जो एंड है, एंड ऑफ दिस न्यूरॉन या नर्व सेल आपको बताना मैं भूल गई. नर्व सेल इज ऑल्सो नोन एज न्यूरॉन. और हमारा पूरा जो ब्रेन है, जो हमारा नर्वस सिस्टम है, न्यूरॉन या नर्व सेल का ही बना हुआ होता है. सो न्यूमरस नर्व सेल्स आर देयर इन द ब्रेन, और उसी का एक्सटेंशन है ये एक्सॉन. इन द एंड ऑफ दिस एक्सॉन देयर इज टर्मिनल एंडिंग. जहाँ पे ये टर्मिनल एंडिंग एक न्यूरॉन की खत्म होती है, वहाँ से दूसरा न्यूरॉन स्टार्ट हो जाता है. मतलब दे आर कनेक्टेड, एंड ऑल द न्यूरॉन्स दे आर कनेक्टेड एंड टू एंड. एक का एंड हुआ, दूसरे का स्टार्ट हुआ, एक का एंड हुआ. सो दे मेक अ कॉन्टिन्यूअस चेन स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द ऑर्गन to the brain. Brain तक जाती है and take the message. So this is about structure of nerve cell, also known as neuron. जैसे हमारे बॉडी के बेसिक यूनिट, फंडामेंटल यूनिट है सेल, इसी तरह से आपके नर्वस सिस्टम की जो फंडामेंटल बेसिक यूनिट है दैट इज नर्व सेल और न्यूरॉन. अवर होल नर्वस सिस्टम इज मेड अप ऑफ न्यूरॉन या नर्व सेल. नाउ व्हाट इज द इम्पॉर्टेंट फंक्शन ऑफ न्यूरॉन? अब न्यूरॉन है, नर्वस सिस्टम का एक पार्ट है. सो इसका फंक्शन क्या है? ट्रांसमिशन ऑफ इम्पल्स. हमारे जितने भी वॉट एवर अवर एक्टिविटीज़, हमें सीधी ब्रेन को मैसेज पहुंच जाता है, एंड ब्रेन इन अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट एनी एक्टिविटी, ब्रेन हमारा रिस्पॉन्स देता है. एनी चेंज इन द एनवायरनमेंट इज नोन एज स्टिमुलस, एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट स्टिमुलस आवर ब्रेन गिव्स अ रिस्पॉन्स. सो ये स्टिमुलस, कुछ भी आपके सामने कोई ऑब्जेक्ट है, कुछ भी है, जो भी आप देख रहे हो, दैट इज़ योर स्टिमुलस. और उस स्टिमुलस का जो इंफॉर्मेशन है, ये हमारे नर्व टिश्यूज, नर्व सेल्स, न्यूरॉन, दे टेक टू द ब्रेन, दे ट्रांसमिट दैट इम्पल्स, information of that impulse to the brain, and brain gives the response, and then only we can feel that about that stimulus. और ये जो रिएक्शन है हमारा स्टिमुलस, हमने कोई भी चेंज आया, कुछ भी चीज़ देखी, कोई ऑब्जेक्ट देखी, और हमें तो एकदम से फौरन उसी वक्त दिखाई दे जाती है. सो यू कैन इमेजिन कि हाउ क्विकली दीज न्यूरॉन्स दे वर्क. बिल्कुल इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के लिए की तरह ये वर्क करते हैं. और फंक्शन इसका यही है कि दिस न्यूरॉन, ये जो न्यूरॉन है एक्चुअली, इसमें आपने देखा कि एक, दिस इज द एंडिंग ऑफ वन न्यूरॉन, यहाँ से दूसरा न्यूरॉन उसका ये स्टार्ट हो जाता है, अनदर न्यूरॉन स्टार्ट, और वो, सो इन बिटवीन द जंक्शन ऑफ टू न्यूरॉन्स, एक न्यूरॉन का एंड हुआ और दूसरा न्यूरॉन शुरू हो गया, राइट? On this terminal ending, the cell body of another neuron will come. In between two neurons, there is a gap, and that gap is known as synapse. That gap between two neuron, one की ending हो गई और दूसरा neuron start हुआ. So in between the two neurons, two nerve cells, there is a gap. That gap is known as synapse. उस गैप को क्या बोलते हैं? साइनैप्स. साइनैप्स. This gap, which is known as synapse, it is not empty. This gap is there, but this gap is not empty. This gap, synapse, is filled with a chemical. एक chemical से ये भरा हुआ होता है, and that chemical is known as acetylcholine. Chemical is known as acetylcholine. ACETYLE, choline, CHOLINE, acetylcholine. What is acetylcholine? Acetylcholine is a chemical which is present in this gap known as synapse. उसमें ये acetylcholine, which is a chemical, is present. और जो फंक्शन है हमारे न्यूरॉन का, ट्रांसमिशन का फंक्शन है. इट ट्रांसमिट द इम्पल्स या एनी मैसेज टू द ब्रेन, और ब्रेन की रिस्पॉन्स को सेंस ऑर्गन्स तक ट्रांसमिट करता है. सो दिस इज द फंक्शन ऑफ न्यूरॉन. लेकिन ये जो फंक्शन होता है न्यूरॉन का, इट टेक्स प्लेस इन टू वेज. दो तरह से ये फंक्शन होता है. हमारे जितने भी मैसेजेस ब्रेन को पहुंचते हैं थ्रू दिस न्यूरॉन, दे आर ट्रांसमिटेड बाय टू वेज. नंबर वन, इलेक्ट्रिकल ट्रांसमिशन, and number two, chemical transmission. So these neurons are capable to transmit the impulse electrically as well as chemically. Electrically तो कैसे करते हैं? Because ions they are transmitted. Ions are charged particles, पॉजिटिवली एंड नेगेटिवली चार्ज पार्टिकल्स हमारे बॉडी में होते हैं, हमारे न्यूरॉन्स में भी होते हैं. सो दोज इलेक्ट्रिकल पार्टिकल्स दे टेक द मैसेज बाय इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पल्स, थ्रू इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पल्स. तो इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पल्स के थ्रू हमारा ट्रांसमिशन होता है डिफरेंट मैसेजेस का. सो इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पल्स से ट्रांसमिट होता है. सो इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पल्स यू कैन इमेजिन कितना क्विक होता है. आप एक स्विच ऑन करो, बल्ब जल जाता है. इट इज़ सो क्विक. वैसे ही हमारे बॉडी में हमने कोई चीज़ देखी और सीधी पहुंच गई ब्रेन में थ्रू दीज इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पल्सेस. और इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पल्सेस के लिए पॉजिटिवली एंड नेगेटिवली चार्ज ions are responsible. And number two, another type of transmission take place, and that is known as chemical transmission. Chemical transmission takes place because this chemical acetylcholine is present in synapse. Synapse is a gap between two neurons, and this gap is not empty, it is filled with this chemical acetylcholine. Say it is filled, and this chemical also transmit the messages, that is known as chemical messages. और एक होता है इलेक्ट्रिकल इम्पल्स. सो फंक्शन को आप कैसे बता सकते हो कि जो नर्व टिश्यूज हैं दे कन्वे द मैसेज बाय टू वेज. नंबर वन, केमिकल मेथड, केमिकल ट्रांसमिशन, and number two, electrical impulse. Electrically, because of the presence of ions, they can transmit the message. So students, this is all about muscular tissues and nervous tissues. और यहाँ पे this chapter finish, खत्म हो गया chapter. और in my next session I will explain NCERT के क्वेश्चन आंसर पूरे टिश्यू वाले चैप्टर के. NCERT के क्वेश्चन आंसर मैं एक्सप्लेन करूँगी और प्लस सम एक्स्ट्रा क्वेश्चंस ऑल्सो. आपकी नॉलेज के लिए कुछ एक्स्ट्रा क्वेश्चंस भी मैं एक्सप्लेन करूँगी. सो डोंट मिस माय नेक्स्ट सेशन. एंड यहाँ पे मैं ये ख़त्म करती हूँ. आई होप यू हैव अंडरस्टूड ऑल दीज टॉपिक्स. जितने किस्म के मैंने आपको प्लांट टिश्यूज़, एनिमल टिश्यूज़ कराए, आपको समझ आ गए होंगे. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग मी.